My next question was actually, I mean, onto the same points, investor sentiments are poor right now, right? I mean, if you had 10 investors last week, today you will find maybe 2 who will come and invest with you, right? That leaves you in the hands of pref equity kind of groups. Do you deal with those kind of groups for your deals? Because, you had a capital call and you go back, ask for money again to your database, you will have a similar issue, right? So what are your thoughts about pref equity groups, when you have deal like this, 230 unit deal in Jacksonville, it must be $35 million deal.
Well, I'd rather not use pref equity because it introduces an additional layer of risk. And because, the pref equity is going to want, depending on how much they contribute, they're obviously, if it's pref, they're going to want paid first. So that's one thing, which isn't terrible, but then depending on how much they put in, they may want some sense of control. Okay. And so there's different types of equity too. There's syndicated equity, pref equity is going to want maybe some control, or maybe they're going to be paid first. That's the definition of pref. But then there's also a term that I've heard thrown around called anchor equity. And it's like an LP, but like, there was one deal I did where there was one company that stroked a check for $50 million, and then we raised $6 million from investors, and we needed $56 million, and one company put in 50. Now, don't you think that company that put in 50, they don't get paid first, but they have more say, they have more control, they have a say-so on how things are going to be run, and so it's a double-edged sword to do it. And I would just tell you this, I've never used it on my own, but I'm in deals as a GP where we've used it. And what I mean by this is I've partnered up in a few deals with some people that are more sophisticated than me. They have these backgrounds. They understand, one of my GP partners, we're co-GPs in a few large deals, and he's got a Wall Street background. He's, he used to work for Deutsche Bank and Goldman's. He can talk the talk and walk the walk. I can't. They'll look at me and be like, "You're that guy from Pittsburgh. We ain't giving you the money." And I'll be like, "I ain't taking your money because I don't understand what you're telling me." Like, I'm a smart guy, but like, I don't have that background. So the thing is, I don't want to tell people to know their limits because we don't have limits. Okay. And I believe that. So I don't want to contradict myself, but I would just say that using preferred equity or anchor equity with strings attached is an advanced strategy that advanced beginners need to stay away from. And again, what happened in Houston was this guy was an advanced beginner, and he got over his skis. This is all my opinion, by the way, but he was an advanced beginner, and he was, debt was easy to get. Preferred equity was easy to get. He had built up a track record, but in a very short amount of time, and he talked a good game. And so, but, now looking back, it's like he probably got over his skis, made a lot of bad decisions. And so it introduces another layer of risk. And I would just say that don't do it unless you really understand how it works and what not only the upside, but the potential downside.
So, Brad, I know we are talking a lot about the future. I want to see, what do you have in store for yourself? I know we were talking earlier, you have few events coming up, things like that. Do you want to share the information with the audience? Yeah, well, the first thing I want to say, and I already said it, but like, we need to be buyers right now. Like, and I'm not just saying it, like, JP Morgan Chase, the largest financial institution in the United States, came out in March with a commercial real estate report, 5 bullet points. And the last one was, you need to be a multifamily buyer in 2023. And why is that? And I'll just rattle off a few reasons. Number one, there's a shortage of housing, especially B and C class housing. Nobody's building it. Okay, so the families making 50, 60, 70,000 a year, there's not enough housing units for them. And for them to buy a single family home, this is not 2008. They can't just go out and get a stated no income
loan, for 0% down. They got to put 20% down, have a 660 credit score. The median price of a single family home nationally has skyrocketed to $450,000. There's a huge affordability gap between renting and owning. It's a lot cheaper on average, $1,100 a month cheaper to rent than to own a median priced apartment versus a median priced home. So the demographics is favoring those of us that own apartment buildings. There's tons of pent up demand where millennials, moved back in with their parents during the pandemic, and they're ready to go back out and get their own place. And they're not going to buy a house right away. They're going to rent an apartment. So there's a lot of supply, demand, and balance. Okay. The fundamentals are still strong not in all markets, but in like landlord and business friendly markets with high job growth and high population growth. The rent growth is still positive. The population growth is positive. Jobs are still being created. If there's a limited window on the bonus depreciation, next year it's going to go down to 60%. This year it's 80%. So if you pay tax and you want to pay less tax, this year is better than next year. So there's a lot of reasons to get all in. Real estate's for sale. I haven't seen pricing this low since like 2017, 2018. And I haven't seen buyer-friendly terms like this since 2017 or 2018. And it's not going to stay here for long. It's not. And I don't know if it's going to be 2024 or 2025, but I'm telling you, we have a window of opportunity that will close in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. I don't have a crystal ball, but I'm just saying that's why now is a great time. And so that's what I see for the industry. And then like in my world, we're doing an event in August. It's our 6th annual Apartment Investor National Conference. It's a multi-speaker event. In the past, we've had the likes of Jesse Itzler, Grant Cardone, Robert Kiyosaki, Ed Milet, and then a lot of industry insiders too. Those guys are all Damon John, all these celebrities. But we've also had a lot of, top level people, 2 or 3 levels ahead of me kind of people at that event as well. So that's an event that everybody needs to be at, especially this year with everything going on. It's August 25, 6, and 7 in Dallas, Texas. And I'd love to give you guys like a QR code or something that you could, pass it out to your people. But for everybody that's listening, it's AIMNATCON, AIMNATCON.com. And there should be a landing page for that.
Awesome, Brad. Well, thank you so much. We're just going to finalize this into the lightning round here. We normally use this to finish off. We appreciate all the great commentary you've made here today. I know a lot of nuggets you've dropped for our audience to listen to. What's one piece of advice that has impacted your life that you received from someone, and how you think it may benefit others?
Well, the first thing comes to my mind is mentorship. Well, 2 things: mentorship and proximity. Proximity is power. That's a Tony Robbins saying. I don't know if he created it. Maybe it's a Jim Rohn thing, but proximity is like you become like the people you spend time with. So if you want to move the needle in your life, you got to be in the right room at the right conference around the right people. So people that are listening, it's a team sport. When I got into this business, I went to a seminar, hired a mentor, went back to work on Monday, they made fun of me. They're like, "Oh, how much did you spend? We were out on the lake. You missed out. You have FOMO." 3 years later, I quit my job. 20 years later, my net worth is 100 times what it was. And you know what? They're still working at Chevron, Texaco. They're probably making $250,000 a year, which is great. But big difference happens over time. So that's proximity and mentorship. Mentorship is the single best way to collapse timeframes and turn decades into days. And that's a cliche, and maybe more than days. But anything you do, you could do on your own. But why not plug into somebody else that's been down the yellow brick road before you?
Right.
And Kiyosaki, even in the cash flow quadrant, when he says ESBI, most people think S stands for self-employed, but you know what else it stands for is do it yourself. And people that want to do everything themselves are going to stay small. And that's one of the things I like about Grant Cardone. He says collaboration is the new currency. And so if you're willing to have proximity, mentorship, and collaborate, whether trying to figure it out yourself and do it all yourself and be by yourself, that's a big difference in how you approach this business. So those are my tips.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. We really appreciate it, all the information that you shared. Thank you so much for this information that you put out there to the Cash Flow Champs Real Estate Podcast. We want to stay connected with you, of course. And, best of luck for the rest of the year in terms of your acquisitions and everything you're going to have going forward. I know, Prashant, go ahead.
Just last question, Brad, how can folks reach out to you? There may be somebody who doesn't know. Most of the people know about you, but how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so our website is bradsumrock.com. There's no C in my last name. It's BRADSUMROK.com. I'm also on social media. I have a lot of fake accounts, I found out. Some of them on Instagram have more followers than my real account, which how do they do that, by the way? But yeah, so everything, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, it's just BRADSUMROK, no punctuation, no underscore, no other words, no other symbols. And I have a company that does a lot of posting for me, but I still look at the direct messages and respond to a lot of them myself.
That is awesome, Brad. Once again, thank you so much for your time today. We are humbled and honored to have you here on Cash Flow Champs Real Estate Podcast. Until next time, sir, thank you so much. Good luck.
Thank you.
And see you in August in Dallas.
Yeah.